Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Pro Wrestling Throwdown for the week of November 14th, 2020. I am Caleb Black, Luke, the Big Dog Williams, our in-studio producer, the Mighty Max Fury, and it is time for What's News in Wrestling. But first, Luke, how are you this Saturday?
I'm doing good. Ready to talk some wrestling. Got some sleep last night. First time in 8 months. And it wasn't due to watching Don West on Impact.
Oh, we're going to talk about Don West later. Don't you disparage the good name, the good Christian name.
You pointed your finger! Sorry.
Max, how you doing this Saturday?
I'm doing great. We got a good show ahead of us today. And feel great. Like Luke, I was able to get some sleep for the first time.
Feels great because he's less filling.
We are all well rested. We're all well fed, and it is time to get to work. What's news in wrestling? The big news, the biggest piece of news coming out this week. The WWE releases Zelina Vega. Now, the interesting thing about this, Zelina Vega tweets at 4:46 p.m., that would have been on the 13th,
yes,
that I support unionization. And her release is announced at 4:56 p.m.
10 minutes later.
10 minutes later. Now, it's not just over the unionization discussion that's been happening backstage at the WWE. She did have other issues with WWE, as far as creative, as far as travel, as far as the demonetization and the WWE taking control of their Twitch stream.
Yeah, and the fact that she had an OnlyFans. Now, OnlyFans is normally used
service for
a
models.
Nefarious kind of thing.
Right.
But it was for her cosplay.
Right.
Which she's huge into cosplay, and
right.
she does really well at it, too.
Right.
And she just...
And it's a revenue generator.
Yeah.
It's another resource that she can use.
Which is why Vince McMahon is upset.
Right. So, on that note, Zelina Vega has now been officially released from the WWE. There is no news about whether or not she's got a no-compete. I imagine because they came to terms on her release. If she does, it won't be the full 90 days. But we're not going to speculate on that.
They said that the lowest today, this was actually announced this morning, and I forgot to talk to you about this, that her no-compete contract is up mid-February.
Okay, so she will have the 90 days no-compete.
Yes.
Well, either way, it will be interesting to see what happens with Aleister Black.
Very interesting. Me and my wife were watching the whole thing unfold last night, as you were letting us know. And that's the first thing that came out of her mouth. She's like, hey, does that mean Aleister's going to leave? And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good point.
Well, the part of the discussions regarding her release was that Aleister requested to be moved back to NXT.
Yes.
A brand more fitting of his ability, a brand that could probably really use his star power, considering...
It could definitely benefit.
But considering Finn Balor's hurt, considering Ridge Holland's hurt, considering a lot of their top guys are out of the picture right now, Aleister Black would be a great ratings get for NXT right now.
For sure.
Unfortunately, Vince McMahon denied the request for him to be moved back to NXT.
Because he's doing so much on SmackDown.
Right. So that, too, will factor in. We will obviously keep you updated, keep you abreast of the situation regarding Zelina Vega and Aleister Black. Moving on in news, Chelsea Green, poor girl, makes her Friday Night SmackDown debut and has broken her wrist.
Fantastic. It couldn't happen at a better time.
To a better person. It is injury season.
It's WrestleMania season,
Finn Balor out with a broken jaw. Ridge Holland out with a shattered ankle.
Oh my God,
Chelsea
horribly
Green
shattered.
Out with a broken wrist. 2 members of the Dark Order out with serious concussions. Somebody else was hurt on AEW. One of the women got so hurt for last week's NXT AEW broadcast.
Abaddon.
That they couldn't even air the match on television.
Abaddon messed up her back really, really bad.
So, obviously, a lot of people getting hurt. It sucks for Chelsea Green. We wish her a speedy recovery.
But speaking of WrestleMania season.
Yes, sir.
WrestleMania is now being talked about of being prolonged.
Yes.
For a week to 2 weeks to try to get a little bit further through the pandemic for the idea of getting more fans.
The idea of being able to open up, bring fans back in.
I always thought, honestly, that WrestleMania was always around the 1st of April.
It's normally around the 1st to 2nd week of April.
That's what I thought.
Normally one of the curves.
If you want to push it a week or two, that's fine.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is if when they do push it, Backlash is going to be like that next Sunday.
Right.
Which I don't like when they do that.
No, and then, of course, you push it too far back in the spring, then you're running directly up against SummerSlam.
Not only SummerSlam, but what else comes in the summertime? Their Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia show, which they actually really haven't even discussed if there's going to be a Saudi Arabia show this year.
Well, due to the travel ban and everything, it's kind of hard to do. But WrestleMania season's going to be pushed just a little bit. They're also, like we had mentioned last week's show, they're planning something huge for the Rumble.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how 2021 really starts to shape up.
Yeah, I agree, especially with how AEW, which we'll discuss here in a little while once we get to This Week in Wrestling, how AEW is promising some changes and some debuts and surprises. We have a little bit of time left this year for both companies to really...
Actually, speaking of news, Pac made a
did return. We'll cover that more in This Week in Wrestling when we get there. The last bit of news we want to talk about was the debut of Terrence and Terrell Hughes on AEW Dark. Terrence and Terrell Hughes, of course, the twin sons of Devon Dudley. Now, if you're not familiar with Devon Dudley, he is one half of the best tag team of the 21st century, inarguably. Arguably, but there are very few cases that can be made for a better tag team for this particular era, encompassing all of the different companies they've been to. They had an opportunity.
I wouldn't call them the best, but they're up there.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. Either way, Terrence and Terrell Hughes made their debut, a promising young tag team. They both look great. They're 26 years old, hyper athletic.
They actually made their on-screen debut a couple years ago on WWE.
On SmackDown.
Are they both 26?
They're twins, yes.
Yeah, they're twins.
Okay,
yes, yeah.
Yeah, one has to be older than the other, or I have such a I'm not even going to go there. Yeah, they're twins. But yeah, no, they made their debut against Serpentico and Luther.
Yeah, the Chaos Project.
Come up with an L, unfortunately. Yeah.
But it is nice to see some more second-generation wrestlers, and especially seeing them both as a tag team. I'm certain that makes Devon proud. And who better to go to for advice about tag team wrestling
than Devon Dudley?
If you're not going to talk to Ricky Morton, you're going to talk to Devon Dudley.
Right.
I wouldn't ask Bubba Ray because he'll just tell you to get the tables.
Yeah. He would. But of course, I mean, Devon actually then went and got the tables. So.
He did get the tables. He was really good at getting the tables.
He really was.
Yeah, it's true.
He was good at fetching things, yeah.
Stop that.
That's what it was. Anyway.
All right, guys, that closes us up for the news this week. Stay tuned. We have a lot of content coming your way. We're going to talk a little bit more about the format changes as we get into it. But in the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe here at youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Throwdown. Finally got that custom URL. Find us on Twitter at twitter.com/Pro Wrestling TD. Send us an email at prowrestlingthrowdown@gmail.com.
There you
go. No,
go.
that's not what I was laughing about. We'll talk about that when we get someplace else. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Throwdown. And check us out every single Saturday from now on, live streaming on Twitch at twitch.com/Pro Wrestling Throwdown. Stay tuned for This Week in Wrestling Part 1 coming your way.
One of us.